They called him mad. A man who spoke to himself, laughed at funerals, and slept beside the gutters where even the rats avoided the water. In a city of 20 million people, Emeka Okafor was just a stain on the sidewalk. A cautionary tale. A living warning of what happens when a man's mind breaks under the weight of this concrete jungle. But what nobody knew, not the market women who cursed him, not the drivers who threw bottles at his head, was that this madman once held the lives of this entire city in his hands. And he made a decision that saved them all. And the day the truth came out, people wished they had listened. People wished they had just stopped and listened to the madman. In the bustling heart of Surulere, life moved fast. Too fast to notice a man who had been standing still for 5 years. Emeka moved like a ghost through the traffic. His hair was a thicket of grey and brown. His beard was a map of neglect. His clothes were a patchwork of dust and diesel. He had a spot. Right at the junction where the new Zenith Towers were rising slowly, arrogantly, into the smoggy sky. The building was a monument to progress. And Emeka was the monument's shadow. He muttered strange things. Not gibberish. There was a rhythm to it. A cadence that sounded almost technical.
Spacing of 12 millimeters.
Spacing of 12 millimeters.
No,
you need 16. The share will take the second floor. People laughed. Omo Madness don't finish this one, they said. He thinks he is building a house inside his head. But there was one thing strange about Emeka. He never begged. Never. His hands were calloused, but not from sleeping rough. They were the hands of a man who once held a pencil and drew lines that became skyscrapers. And every night, every single night, long after the construction workers had gone home and the security guards were asleep in their plastic chairs, Emeka would rise from his cardboard bed, cross the expressway barefoot, and stand facing the Zenith Towers. He would stare at it for hours. Unblinking. His lips moving silently. Counting. Calculating. The night watchman would shine a torch on him and see tears cutting clean lines through the dirt on his cheeks. The city slept. The building stood tall. And the madman stood watch, waiting for the ground to tell him its secret. Adeabi Choku, Ada for short, was a content creator. Which is a polite way of saying she was hungry for a story that would pay the rent. She filmed everything. Street food reviews, traffic jam rants, and man-on-the-street interviews that nobody watched. She noticed Emeka because she was looking for weird. A clip titled Madman Curses New Skyscraper was guaranteed to get a few thousand views from people who enjoyed laughing at the broken. But when she got close enough to film him, the algorithm in her brain, the one trained to spot engagement, flagged something else. His eyes. They were not rolling. They were focused. Too focused for a madman. She lowered her phone. She did something nobody in 5 years had bothered to do. She spoke to him like a human being. Uncle. Why do you keep looking at that building? Emeka froze. It was like she had touched a live wire. For the first time in Ada's memory, the stream of muttering stopped. The city noise around them seemed to mute itself. He turned. Slowly. And he spoke. Not in riddles. Clear. Precise.
Because it will kill
terrifying.
People.
Because it will kill people. Ada laughed nervously. How? He pointed a dirty, shaking finger at the base of the structure. Weak foundation. Corruption. They rushed the curing time. The pillars at grid 3B and 4C are hollow. Filled with sand and gravel instead of steel. Ada was confused. How could a gutter-dwelling madman know about grid coordinates and curing times? Something about his eyes in that moment did not look mad. They looked like the eyes of a man watching a train crash in slow motion. That night, Ada did not post the funny video. She sat in her tiny apartment, staring at the footage. She zoomed in on his face. She noticed a faint, jagged scar cutting through his eyebrow. She whispered to herself.
Who are you?
Ada decided to dig. Not for views. For answers. She started recording Emeka secretly, but this time she was asking about concrete slump tests and soil bearing capacity. And Emeka answered. Every time. His knowledge was rusty, buried under trauma, but it was undeniable. This man was an engineer. She took a screenshot of his face and brought it to an old construction site across town. She found a man named Paul Joshua, a retired foreman with hands like leather and eyes that had seen too many buildings fall. She showed him the photo. Paul Joshua's hand started shaking. He dropped his cup of tea. The ceramic shattered on the concrete floor. Where did you find him? Is he alive? This is not a madman. This is engineer Emeka Okafor. The Lion of Koran. The man who stopped the Eco Bridge collapse in 2008. Ada's world tilted. He was not just anyone. He was a legend. A brilliant structural engineer who had the ear of governors. He was wealthy. He was powerful. He had a wife and a son with a laugh that could fill a cathedral. So what happened? How does a lion end up sleeping with the stray dogs? Paul Joshua looked over his shoulder, as if the concrete itself had ears. He pulled Ada close. He told her a story that the newspapers buried. Years ago, Emeka was hired to do the final integrity audit on the Zenith Towers, a project owned by the most feared developer in the city, Chief Jide Osai. Emeka discovered something deadly. The steel reinforcements were scrap metal from melted down ships. The concrete mix was cut with quarry dust to save money. Emeka sat in a boardroom and said the 6 most dangerous words a man can say to the Nigerian elite. I will not approve this. They offered him money. Millions. Enough to send his son to Oxford, to retire his wife, to disappear into comfort. He rejected it. He tore the envelope in half and dropped it in Chief Osai's coffee cup. Then they threatened him. Still, he refused.
Make it
He
look
filed a
like
stop
an
work order
accident.
with the government. He was going to save those future tenants, even if it killed him. He just did not know it would kill the people he loved first. One rainy Thursday evening, his wife Amora and his son Kin were driving home. The brakes failed on the Lekekoi bridge. The car went through the barrier. They found the car at the bottom of the lagoon 2 days later. It was ruled an accident. But Emeka knew. He found the brake line in the wreckage. It was cut. Clean. Professional. It was a warning from Chief Osai. This is what happens when you do not look the other way. That same week, the company forged Emeka's digital stamp and signature. Construction resumed. Emeka tried to scream the truth from every podium, every newspaper, every government office. But his grief made him erratic. He looked insane with rage. The system did not need to kill him. It just needed to discredit him. They stripped his license. They labeled him a danger to public safety. They took his house, his name, and finally, his mind. Or at least, that is what people thought. Paul Joshua finished the story and looked Ada dead in the eye. Delete that video. Now. If Chief Osai sees you poking around the madman, you will end up at the bottom of the lagoon too. He is not just crazy. He is a living ghost. A warning to anyone else who tries to be a hero. Ada should have stopped. Any smart person would have. But Ada was not smart. She was curious. And she had a phone with a full battery. She went back to the streets. She watched Emeka with new eyes. She saw the things we all missed. The way his fingers traced invisible vectors in the dirt. The way he did not just stare at the building. He measured it with his breath. She saw him one night, in the pouring rain, carving something into the wooden bench of the bus stop with a rusty nail. People ran for cover. He just kept carving. A diagram. An equation. A warning. She realized the truth that the city was too blind to see. Emeka Okafor was not having a breakdown. He was having a breakthrough. The trauma had stripped away everything. The social anxiety, the fear of authority, the need for approval. All that was left was the raw, unfiltered engineer. He was not talking to himself. He was running calculations out loud, over and over, checking for errors, making sure that when the building fell, and he was certain it would, he would know exactly where to stand to save the most people. He was, in the truest sense of the word, a prophet of concrete and steel. And his prophecy was set for a specific date. The grand opening. The weeks passed like a countdown only Emeka could hear. He stopped eating. He stopped sleeping in the gutter. He moved closer to the building's perimeter. He was a sentinel at the gates of hell. And then, the banners went up. Red and gold. The Zenith Tower's grand opening. Ribbon cutting ceremony. Saturday, 10 in the morning. Ada saw Emeka read the banner. For the first time in months, his body went rigid with terror. The calm, calculating engineer disappeared. The desperate father returned. No. No, no, no. Not Saturday. The soil is too wet from the rains. The vibration from the crowd, the music. It will trigger resonance. It will come down. It will all come down. He started screaming at passers-by. He grabbed the woman's handbag. Do not go in there on Saturday. Stay away. She pepper-sprayed him. He fell to the ground, choking, but he did not stop shouting. Ada ran home and did something that felt like madness itself. She typed up an anonymous email to the Lagos State Building Control Agency. She attached Paul Joshua's testimony. She attached the photos of Emeka's gutter diagrams. It bounced back. Mailbox full. She called the contractor's hotline listed on the banner. A man picked up. Madam, you say a madman told you the building will fall. The madman is just hungry. Tell him to come for the opening. There will be plenty jollof rice. She was alone. Emeka was alone. And Saturday was coming. Saturday morning dawned hot and bright. The kind of sun that makes you forget the storm the night before. The plaza in front of the Zenith Towers was packed. Women in glittering girly head wraps. Men in crisp agbadas. Politicians in dark SUVs. A red ribbon stretched across the grand entrance. Chief Osai stood at the podium, his smile as wide and hollow as the building behind him. Ada was there, phone in hand, filming live. She was not a content creator today. She was a witness. She scanned the crowd for Emeka. She found him at the edge of the barricade, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. He looked different. He had tried to wash his face in a puddle. He was wearing a torn, stained jacket that he had found in the trash. It was the jacket of an engineer. He was trying to look presentable. He was trying to be heard. As Chief Osai raised a glass of champagne, Emeka broke through the barricade. Do not enter. The third floor slab. Punching shear. It will punch through. The columns at 3B are dust. Dust. The security guards descended on him like vultures on carrion. Buttons rose and fell. The crowd laughed nervously, then with cruelty. Beat the madness out of him. Ada pushed forward, screaming. Stop. He is an engineer. Listen to him. A guard shoved her back. She fell onto the concrete, scraping her palms raw. She looked up through the legs of the crowd and saw Emeka's face. Blood was streaming from his nose, mixing with the dirt. But his eyes were locked on the building. And then, in a surge of adrenaline that only a man with nothing left to lose can summon, Emeka wrenched free. He did not run away. He ran inside. He vanished into the dark, air-conditioned lobby of the Zenith Towers. Chief Osai laughed it off. My people, this is Lagos. Even our madmen want to live in luxury. Please, let the music play. Let us cut this tape. Ada stayed outside. She looked down at her phone. Her live stream comments were flying. Is this a skit? Where is the madman going? He thinks he is a superhero. Ada zoomed in. Through the glass doors, she saw Emeka. He was not wandering aimlessly. He was running with the precision of a soldier. He knocked over a waiter. He grabbed a fire extinguisher. He was heading for the staircase. He was heading for the weak point. Inside the building, the sound of the live band was shaking the walls. And then, the building answered back. It started small. A water pipe burst on the mezzanine. People thought it was a prank. Then the chandelier, a giant 5 million naira monstrosity of glass and gold, began to swing. Not with the music. Against it. Ada watched in horror through her phone screen as the marble floor of the lobby buckled. It looked like a wave on the ocean. Concrete does not bend. It shatters. And when it shattered, the screams began. The building was eating itself from the top down. A pancake collapse. Amidst the white dust and the blood, Ada saw a figure. Emeka. He was carrying a woman over his shoulder. He dropped her at the edge of the rubble and turned back. He was pulling a security guard, the same one who had just beaten him, by the collar. He knew the building's skeleton better than the men who built it. He knew which door frames would hold, which stairwells were already crushed. He was moving through the apocalypse like it was a floor plan he had memorized. He pushed a mother and child out of a side exit just as the mezzanine collapsed onto the spot where they had been standing. He saved 7 lives in 90 seconds. But the 8th person he went back for was himself. He looked back one last time into the darkness of the collapsing lobby. He saw the dust cloud coming. He did not run. He just stood there. And in the split second before the concrete swallowed him, Ada's phone captured his face. He was smiling. He had been right. The Zenith Towers was a pile of broken concrete and twisted rebar. 53 people were pulled out alive. Most of them owed their lives to a man they had called mad. They found Emeka's body 3 days later. He was shielding the body of a janitor he had tried to save. They had to bury them together because the concrete had fused them into one. And then, the story changed. Ada uploaded the video. Not the funny clip. The truth. The one with Paul Joshua's testimony. The one with Emeka's final, terrifying warning. It went viral. Not just in Lagos. The world. Millions watched a man who had lost everything use the last of his sanity to save a city that had thrown him away. The comments changed from laughing emojis to rest in peace, hero. The same mouths that mocked him were now typing justice for Emeka. The government, embarrassed and exposed, had to act. They raided Chief Osai's mansion. They found the forged documents. They found the bank transfers for the substandard steel.
Look at this.
They found evidence linking his security detail to the tampering of Emeka's car brakes 5 years ago. Chief Osai was arrested trying to board a private jet to Dubai. He is in prison now. But the story is not just about one building or one corrupt man. A week after the funeral, Ada received a package. It was from a homeless shelter near the bridge where Emeka slept. They had found it in a drainage pipe. A leather briefcase. Eaten by rats and mold. Inside, wrapped in waterproof nylon, was Emeka's final report. He had not just been watching the Zenith Towers. In his 5 years of madness, walking the streets barefoot, he had audited 12 other buildings. He had marked them on a map with an X. He had predicted their failure dates. Ada took the map to the news stations. She stood outside the government house. She held up the moldy, brilliant work of a man who did math in the dust. He is still talking. Engineer Emeka Okafor is still talking. And this time, you will listen. And they did. The government condemned 6 of the 12 buildings within a month. Evacuations happened. Lives were saved. Lives that will never know they owe their existence to a man they once threw stones at. The story of Emeka Okafor changed the way we see the streets. It made us wonder. What if the man arguing with the lamppost is actually arguing with a faulty electrical grid? What if the woman singing to the pigeons knows the secret to curing a disease? We are so quick to label. So quick to discard. We see torn clothes and we assume a torn mind. But sometimes, the mind is not broken. It is just tuned to a frequency that the rest of us are too loud to hear. In the end, they named a small park after him. Right where the gutter used to be. There is a statue there. Not of a man in a suit holding a blueprint. That is not who Emeka was in the end. The statue is of a man in rags, standing tall, pointing a finger at the sky, as if to say, I told you so. Ada goes there sometimes. She sits on the bench where Emeka carved his equations. If you look closely, the city never bothered to sand down the wood. The mat is still there. A warning to the future. A legacy written in a rusty nail. And if you listen very, very closely on a quiet Lagos night, you can almost hear the wind passing through the leaves, whispering the same thing he always whispered. It will fall. Everything will fall. But is anyone listening? 6 months later. The city has moved on. It always does. But there is a new ritual at the Emeka Okafor Memorial Park. A young boy, no older than 10, walks up to the statue. He is wearing a school uniform. He is carrying a small, hardcover notebook. He is the same boy who, a year ago, threw a stone at Emeka because his friends dared him to. He looks up at the bronze face of the madman. The sculptor captured the scar on the eyebrow. The intensity in the eyes. The boy places something at the foot of the statue. It is not flowers. It is a drawing. A sketch of a bridge. Uncle Emeka, the boy whispers. I want to be an engineer. Like you. But the kind that does not let the bad men win. The boy walks away to join his friends. The drawing is crude, childish. But underneath the bridge, the boy has written one word in careful, block letters. Strong. The wind picks up the drawing and carries it down the street. It flutters past the gutter where Emeka used to sleep. It flutters past the construction site where the Zenith Towers are being rebuilt. Properly this time, under 24-hour surveillance by a new, incorruptible engineering board named after Emeka. And the drawing finally lands at the feet of Ada. She picks it up. She smiles. She is no longer just a content creator. She is the keeper of the flame. One man. One voice. Against the weight of a city. They broke his body. They tried to break his mind. But they could not break his truth. She looks back at the new building rising from the ashes. It is called Okafor Place. And for the first time in a long time, the pillars are straight. The steel is strong. The foundation is deep. Emeka Okafor did not just save lives that day. He saved the soul of a profession. He reminded us that a true engineer's first duty is not to the client, not to the budget, not to the deadline, but to the people who will walk inside and trust that the roof will hold. The story of the madman ends not with a bang, but with a whisper. A whisper that has become a roar in the heart of a new generation. In universities across the country, they teach the Okafor principle. It is not about math. It is about ethics. It is about looking at a structure and asking not, will this make money, but, will this hold up my mother? And in the streets of Surulere, when the children see a man talking to himself a little too loudly, they do not laugh. They watch. They listen. Just in case he is trying to tell them something the rest of the world is too busy to hear. Because sometimes, the maddest men are the only ones sane enough to see the cracks in the world. And sometimes, the only thing standing between a city and disaster is a man with nothing left to lose, And everything left to say. Destiny of a madman. It is not a story of loss. It is a story of a voice that refused to die. If you walk past the park tonight, do not just look at the statue. Listen to the ground beneath your feet. Feel the vibration of the city. And ask yourself, are we building on sand or on stone? He was Emeka Okafor. They called him mad. We call him a hero.